This is going to be a short app about, it's going to give people advice on their emotions. And one new thing that I'm going to show is using Safari services, so importing that library and what we can do with it and how we can open up a new window and show a web page from our app. So thanks a lot for watching. Enjoy. Alright, I'm going to open up Xcode and I'm going to start with a single view app. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to use language Swift, user interface storyboard. Click on next. And I'm going to create that in a folder where I save my iOS apps. I'm going to start in the main.storyboard. So in the navigational pane, I'm just clicking on main.storyboard. I think I'm going to give it like a background blue color. I'm going to open up the object library. I grabbed a label. When I open up the object library, I'm going to hold down Option, and then I can drag 1, 2, maybe 3 labels, a text field, maybe 4 buttons. 1. The buttons are going to be hard to see because of the background. 2, 3, 4. I think that's all I need. So once again, that's 3 labels, 1 text field, and 4 buttons. I'm going to put one of the buttons down the bottom right-hand corner. And I think I'm just going to change the background on that to be yellow. It'll be easier to see. Alright, there it is down there. Cool. I'm going to change what this label says. Instead of saying, so I clicked on the label and I went up to the attributes inspector, which is this one that looks like a shield. And I'm just going to change the name to be to give the app a name. The next label will come underneath that. I'm going to stretch it out, make it nice and big. I'm going to take the name of the label out of it. And I'm going to change it from lines 1 to line 0. That way, if I write information to it, multiple lines, and we'll just make it multiple lines, again, make it dynamic. For the next label, I'm going to say, please enter your name and pick an emotion. In this text field right here, I'm going to highlight the text field. I'm going to go here to where it says placeholder, and this is going to enter placeholder text. I'm just going to say enter name. And you'll see the text appears in the text field, but it's kind of grayed out. So if somebody starts to enter their name, that will disappear. Okay, where are my other 3 buttons? Oh, they're kind of lost behind these labels. There's one of them. So I'm finding them by highlighting them in this view controller scene right here. Where's the last one? There it is. Yeah. So there I have my 3 buttons down here. What I'm going to do with these buttons is I'm going to put some emotions from Bitmoji. I found that the Bitmoji are interesting to use, and I want to try to use them in an app. So I'm just opening up Google Chrome. I've installed this extension onto my Google Chrome, Bitmoji. And in here, I'm going to find some emotions. I'm going to save this image as happy. I'll just save it on my desktop for now. Let's look for some other emotions. Oh, this one's kind of funny. This person's just giving up a little bit. I'll call this one overwhelmed. And then maybe this angry one. I like this angry one too. Once I have the images downloaded, I'm going to go back to Xcode. I'm going to open up my assets.xassets folder, and I'm going to drop the images right in here. I can find them through Finder. So these are the 3 images that I've downloaded from Bitmoji, and I'm just going to drag those into my assets.xassets folder in my app, and you'll see my images show up there. For my buttons, I'm going to highlight the button. I'm going to go into the attributes inspector, and I'm going to go down to where it says image, and one of them will be angry. Ooh, that's big. Let's resize that a little bit. So I went into the one that looks like a ruler, the size inspector. I'm going to try maybe 100 by 100 and see if that looks a little bit better. That's a little bit better for a button size. Alright, so I put my image on and I resized it. Let's do that again with the other image. So I highlight that, I go to the attributes inspector, I go to where there's an image, and I'm going to try happy this time. Then I'm going to go to the size inspector, and I'm going to change that to be 100 by 100. Well, they're a little bit small. I guess I could have made them a little bit bigger. And the last one. Alright, so we got our title up at the top. I think I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, make it look a little bit more like a title. I'm going to click on this T over here in the attributes inspector once I have that label highlighted. I'm going to change the font. I'm going to open up another editor pane now. Alright, once you have the two panes open, we can connect what we need to connect. I'm going to connect this blank label here. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the label, connect it above viewed load. I'm going to call this the advice label. I'm going to connect my text field. Hold down Control, click on the text field, drag it over here by this label. I'll call that name text field. I'm going to connect my 4 buttons. I'll connect them below viewed load. I have my angry button. I'm holding down Control, clicking on the button, dragging it below viewed load. This one will be called the happy button. And the last one is the overwhelmed button. Oh, I have one more button I need to connect. I forgot. That's going to be this Safari Services button that's going to take us to like information about emotions. And so I'm going to do a Control, click, and drag. I'll call the Safari button. And I think that's all I need to connect for now. So I'm gonna close my main.storyboard, and it just gives me a little bit more room for my viewcontroller.swift file. Now that I've connected these buttons, I like to put my my cursor in between the open curly bracket and the closed curly bracket. Just hit enter a couple times so I have a little bit of room to put in some code. Just makes it a little bit easier for me to work with. Let's see, up at the top of my app above viewed load, I'm going to create a couple variables. The first one is going to be called name, and it's going to be equal to a blank string. If you hold down Option and move it over name, you can see that it becomes a string when you put in those 2 quotation marks there, just a blank string. The next one we're going to create is going to be called emotion. And it's going to be equal to an integer. It's just a number. It's going to keep track of what button the user presses. So I think when the user hits the button, we'll assign an emotion to that, and then we'll call a function, maybe called give advice. So I'm going to make the function here below these buttons, above the Safari button. So now we have a function give advice, and inside the angry button we can set the emotion to be equal to 1. And we can set the name equal to whatever's in the text field. Oh, we called it name text field, I think, sorry. Whatever's in the name text field. I'm going to have to put an exclamation mark after this because I don't know for sure that the user's written something in that text field, so that's like an optional. And so what I'm doing with the exclamation mark is I'm promising that there's going to be information there. And when I test this out, I'll make sure I put a name in when I test it. If I finish this app and I don't check to make sure there's information there, this app is going to have problems. But for right now, I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to call that function that I created, that function down here called give advice, this blank function right here. So to call the function, I'll just say its name. and then the code here will run what is in give advice. So I'm going to start with an if statement in this give advice function. So if double equal sign, if emotion double equal sign 1, so if emotion is equal to 1. You'll notice up here we're using a single equal sign. That's because we're assigning value. Down here we're checking for value, so we're using 2 equal signs. So if the emotion picked is angry, we're going to give some advice for them to calm down. Else if emotion is 2, 2 being that they're happy, and then we'll give some other advice. I'm going to copy this code for the angry button. I'm just going to put it inside of the happy button, and I'm going to change emotion 1 to be emotion 2. I guess I can do that for the overwhelmed button now too. I'm just going to paste it again. Instead of emotion 1, it'll be emotion 3. So I have emotion 1, 2, and 3. I'm getting the name from the text field in each instance, and then I'm calling this function give advice. So if the user is happy, I'm going to say something like advice label.text. Remember we connected our advice label was that blank label up at the top. So we're writing information there. So we start with the name of it. So advice label.text is going to be equal to you are feeling great, and then we're going to put their name in there, make it a little bit more personalized. Continue what you're doing, smile at someone, some advice for if you're feeling happy. And the last one we have to do is that else if emotion is 3. I could do an else statement. I'm going to do an else if. Maybe I'll want to add more emotions at some point, and then it would be easy too if I'm using the else if. You could also put an else statement here, because once they push a button, the emotion should either be 1, 2, or 3. Again, I'm starting with the advice label.text, and then I'm going to make it equal to a string. And so to make it a string, I'm putting these quotation marks around it. And then you can give it any advice you'd give to somebody who's feeling overwhelmed. Break your work into small pieces, use a to-do list, whatever kind of advice you want to give yourself. I'm just going to test it, just make sure it's working all right. So it works. Calm down, Dalton. Relax. Take a deep breath when you press the angry button. I'm not sure if that exclamation mark is a good point if you're already feeling angry, but you can try it with the other buttons. It seems like they're all working. All right, let's see what we'll do for our next step. All right, next up, we are going to let the user hit that emotion button. And let me go back to the storyboard really quickly. This button, we didn't give it a name yet. Let's write something on it. I'm just going to write emotions on it. So when we hit that emotions button, we're going to go to a web page that'll teach us a little bit about emotions. So the first thing we have to do is import a library. We're going to import Safari services. So when this button opens up, when we press this button, we're going to open up a new view controller. It's going to be using Safari to go to this website. So I'm going to say if let URL equals URL string. We're going to the Wikipedia post on emotions. And let SVC, that just stands for Safari View Controller, equals Safari View Controller. The URL is going to be this URL that we created, and then we're going to present it. The next up is, I mentioned that we're going to be running into problems if the user uses our app and they don't enter a name, because what we're doing with this exclamation mark right here is we're just promising there's going to be a name inside the text field. So if our user uses the app and doesn't put a name in the text field, we'll run into problems. So let's solve that problem right now with some if statements. So I'm going to my first emotion button, the angry button. I'm saying if name.textField is not equal to blank, so this exclamation mark means not equal to blank, then I want to do this right here. So I'm just cutting it and pasting it inside of the curly brackets for my if statement. I'll put an else statement on there and fill that in later. Let's write that again. If name text fields dot text is not equal to blank, so I've done that for the angry button and the happy button. Let's do it one more time for the overwhelmed button. So if the name text field is not blank, then we can run this code and we can assign the name to be equal to whatever's in the text field. If the name text field is blank, then we somehow have to warn the user that they have to enter their name. And I think we're going to do that with an alert controller. Alright, so inside the else, we're saying let alert controller equal UI alert controller. Titled name alert. The message is going to be please enter your name, and the preferred style is alert. Alert controller dot add action. We want to add an action because we want the user to be able to say OK to dismiss this, and then we're going to present that alert controller. And we can use this same code inside of all of our else's for our buttons. When I pasted it, it's a little bit off center, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Command A, Control I, and that just makes sure everything's spaced out okay. Alright, so we have the same code in for the else in each of our buttons. And we have our Safari button working, so maybe we should test it out again. We're going to test out our app again to see how it's working. Say we don't put in a name and we hit one of these buttons, our alert pops up, our name alert. Please enter your name. If we enter our name, then we get our advice with our name in there. And if we hit the emotions button, then it looks like that Safari Services is opening up a new view controller with the emotions Wikipedia page. So hopefully the user can learn a little bit about the emotions. they're done, they'll just hit this done button up at the top left hand corner, and we'll come back to our screen. Alright. I hope you found building this app fun. I think I found this learning about the Safari services was really interesting, and I liked using the bit emojis. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.